All right, so I'm gonna start with the first one, which happens to be a first question. A social worker with a client who has a history of substance abuse. A social worker works with a client who has a history of substance abuse. Although he has been through several treatment programs, he relapses. He says nothing has worked for him and he doesn't think anything can help him. The client, I'm sorry, my alarm will go off right now. The client thinks he will become just like his father, who had a long history of substance abuse and recently passed away. When using a relapse prevention model, what should the social worker do first? So first, y'all, we want to focus on, of course, doing the most important thing. And anybody want to take a stab at telling me what is the priority issue in this situation? What do y'all see as being the presenting problem or the priority issue?
He has a substance abuse. He has a history of substance abuse.
A history of substance abuse? Anybody else? Anybody agree, disagree with that?
I would say the client thinks he will become just like his father, who had a long history of substance abuse and recently passed away.
Okay. All right. So since we have two different answers, let me just kind of divulge y'all a little bit. For whoever answered, because I can't see whoever's talking because I have my thing on the screen. So whoever gave the first answer of the client who has a history of substance abuse, one thing I want you to know when you're picking out the presenting problem or the priority issue, and y'all, I'm going to keep saying priority issue because that's something I'm trying to change. I want y'all to think of it as another way because people keep getting caught up with presenting problem as the reason why they came, but it's more than just that. So I'm also trying to use it interchangeably with priority issue. So when y'all hear me say that, just it's still a presenting problem, but I want y'all to just kind of focus on it in a different way. So anyway, when you're trying to find a priority issue, you have to focus on what's the most important thing that's going on with the client right here, right now. And that's where that presenting problem part comes from. You want to focus on what's happening in the present. So being that this says a client who has a history of substance abuse, yes, this is something that he has a history of, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that's happening right now in the present. So because of that, this cannot be the presenting issue. It's not something that I'm saying don't worry about, but it's not the main thing that I want you to focus on when you're picking your answer, because as we're going to see when we start going through that, your answer has to directly address whatever you pick out up here as the priority issue. So just if we chose to focus on the client who has a history of substance abuse versus the client thinking he'll become just like his father who had a long history, those are two different things. So that means you could possibly come to two different answers. So just for, I guess, teaching purposes, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to right off the bat, I usually kind of let y'all kind of see how it turns out, but this cannot be a present problem, okay? Because it's just saying he has a history of it. Doesn't mean that it's something that is happening right now in the session or even happening right now with the client. That could just be his past. So the most pressing thing that's happening right here is the client is in a session with this social worker, and he's basically telling her, you know, nothing has worked for me, and he doesn't think anything can help him. He thinks he will come just like his father, who had a long history of substance abuse and recently passed away. So we know that these things are happening right now in the present. So looking at that, we're gonna go with, before I say whether it's right or wrong, we're just gonna go with what was picked out as the presenting problem. And let's kind of weed our way through the answer choices. So the question is asking us, what is the first thing we should do when we're using a relapse prevention model? So when you have these type of questions, this is like a direct giveaway to the answer. You know that regardless, your answer has to be related to a relapse prevention model. If you don't know what that is, take a note of it and go look it up, because it is very prevalent when it comes to substance abuse, and you probably will see questions about it on the exam. So you have to know some things about the relapse prevention model. So you want to know that they're asking you, the question is asking you, what is the most important thing that you should do about this presenting problem? About the client thinks that he will become just like his father, who had a long history of substance abuse and recently passed away. So would the first and most important thing you do about this, according to the relapse prevention model, be to A, explore the possible familiar basis for the addiction? Would that be the first thing that you think you would do? You can say pause. I want to hear if y'all want to pause that, or if y'all want to scratch that. Like, is that something that y'all think we would possibly do first? Is that the most important thing we need to worry about right now for that problem?
Scratch.
Yeah, I would say scratch it.
Okay, we got 2 scratches. If anybody want to pause, y'all say it, and so that I have to hold it up for just 1 pause. All right, what about B? Is the most important thing that we should do about this problem here is to assess the client's motivation to change his behavior.
Pause.
Yeah, I would say pause.
Okay. What about C? Assess the client's willingness to involve his family in his recovery.
I would say scratch.
Scratch.
Right, so I heard some scratches. And what about D? Refer the client to a more intense substance abuse treatment facility.
Scratch.
Yeah, scratch.
Scratch. Okay. So it sounds like everybody's kind of on the same page with this one. How are y'all feeling about B, since that's the only answer that we have left? Are y'all thinking that B is the most important answer
Yes.
to assess this client's motivations to change according to this problem right here?
Yes.
Anybody object to that? No objections? Good. Let me get the rationale for y'all. See if my computer would go right. Okay, there we go. So yes, the answer is B, and here's why. Motivation, y'all, I'm gonna just tell y'all, when y'all see relapse prevention model, stages of change is one of the biggest things when you're working with substance abuse victims, especially, victims, but people who are struggling with substance abuse. In the relapse prevention model, the motivation, the client stage of change is something that's very important to that model. So you can almost always pick an answer that's related to that. But not only that, but because it makes the most sense here, you have a client that is basically saying, look, ain't nothing worked for me. He done been through several programs, nothing worked for me. He don't think anything can help him. And then his father just passed away from a drinking problem. So the most important thing we need to do is we need to assess his motivation to change his behavior, because right now he's sounding defeated. So motivation is the first and foremost thing that we need to worry about. Any questions about that?
No.
This is more of a question, y'all, where it's just one of those things you have to be able to break it down, but you have to know about the relapse prevention model as well. You have to know, these type of things when it comes to substance abuse, because had it not said using a relapse prevention model, it may not have been that answer. I'm not going to get into all of that, but it may not have been that answer, but specifically because it said when using a relapse prevention model. Okay. So moving on to number 2, a social worker is providing ongoing therapy for an adolescent who has been sexually abused. In assessing the impact the abuse has had on this client, the social worker should most be concerned with the client's, which one? And this is more or less, I guess you can say kind of like a recall question. What do y'all think the social worker should be most concerned with for an adolescent who has been sexually abused? Any one of those. Physical health, do y'all think the adolescent health?
Psychosocial functioning.
Yeah.
I want to hear some rationales. Okay, so I heard somebody say psychosocial functioning. Tell me why. This is a unit 2 question. I started putting more of these because a lot of people are telling me they're struggling kind of with with unit 2 as well. So tell me why. Tell me why this would be what you're most concerned with.
Because you want to know how the client is functioning day to day. He's been sexually abused, and so it has impacted him. So you want to know how he's functioning.
Okay. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that? Tell me why wouldn't you say physical health?
Because he's an adolescent and there's nothing in the STEM that's saying that he's having like trouble like in school or, like his ability to do something.
Yes, good. That's a very good rationale. What about level of repression? Why wouldn't that be something that's important for us to assess to see? Is he, really just repressing his feelings about it? Because we are assessing the impact.
Does repression means that it's going forward? Like he doesn't remember?
No, it means like he's just pushing it down, like he's not, like he's ignoring it, acting like it didn't happen, those type of things.
Yeah, it doesn't say that in the STEM.
Okay. And of course, they don't say anything about family relationships. So yeah, it is psychosocial functioning. I just want to make sure, I like to go through all of the answer choices to hear your rationale, just to make sure that everybody kind of understands why the right answer is what it is. Because once if you become get in the practice of understanding why the answer is what it is, these are the things that help you not to go back and change your answers on the test. You don't have to feel like, oh man, I should go back and check that because I wasn't really sure. So once you can go through your rationales and say, hey, I know that this is the answer because of this, then you're good to go, okay? So yes, you need to be concerned with his current level of function, because we're in the here and now. In these questions, y'all remember nothing else, but we are in the here and now. Do what's best for the client right here, right now, okay? All right, question 3. Anybody, this is a should question. Anybody want to take question 3? All right, I'll go. A client in brief therapy with a social worker expresses general dissatisfaction with life. During the first few sessions, the client skirts answers to questions, avoids issues, and changes the subject often. Upon observing these behaviors, the social worker should. Okay, so first off, anybody want to tell me where they believe we are in this phase of the process? Are we in the beginning, middle, or the end of the helping process?
I would say in the middle, because it says in the first few sessions. So they've had sessions.
Yes, during the first few sessions, which means you're already working with the client. And for my new people, this is where we're going to get into a little bit more, but this is when we are looking for what phase we're in, beginning, middle, or end. What is the question saying we're doing? So in this case, it says during the first few sessions. So that means you've already started kind of working with the client. Yes, you're probably you just started working with them, but you've already started working with them. So that means we're kind of in the middle phase right there. So being that we know that we're kind of in the middle phase, but it says the first few sessions, all right? So, I mean, the priority issue or the presenting problem right here is pretty clear, is that the client is skirting answers to questions, which means he's not even really trying to answer the questions like talking about. He's avoiding issues and changing the subject often, okay? So upon observing these behaviors, the social worker should. And again, for the new people to the group, should means that you just need to primarily start thinking, what is the most ethical thing I should do? When you see should, you're thinking about, okay, what does the code of ethics say that I should do in this? Oh, just what's the most ethical thing? So I'm gonna put a note so y'all can have it. So in this case, what is the question? The question is asking, what is the most ethical thing after you observe these behaviors, within the first few sessions? What is the most ethical thing that you as a social worker should do? Would it be to employ ego supportive techniques? Pause or scratch?
I would say scratch.
Tell me why.
Like, what does that mean? Employ ego?
You gonna scratch it and you don't know what it means?
It don't even make sense.
Okay, anybody else have any feelings about A? Ego supportive techniques just pretty much means what it says. Like you just basically going to try to support their ego. Like if he see how he's acting all kind of nonchalant or whatever, you basically want to try to, I don't want to say feed into that, but you want to kind of ask questions that will boost his ego, and this, like, I guess, to try to get the answers that you want. So that's pretty much what ego support is. I in my own words, I would say kind of like a ego boosting type of technique. So y'all want to scratch it? We still going to scratch, right?
Yes.
Okay. Wait, what?
I said scratch for me.
Okay, all right, so what about B? Should we just respect the client's pace?
Pause. I think it's
Pause, okay,
pause.
all right.
I
What
would-
about C?
I would
Oh,
say scratch.
okay, we got a scratch and a pause on B, all right. What about C? Should we confront the client with the resistance?
I don't like the word confront.
Yeah.
I know we do that sometimes.
So are we pausing or scratching it?
I would say pause.
Yeah, Paul.
Okay. What about D? Would we review the social history of that client?
Scratch.
Scratch.
Okay. So now we down to 2 answers. All right, so we got this client, you've been seeing them for a few sessions. Now, keep in mind, this is brief therapy. Whenever they specify where you are, please believe it's going to be relevant to your answer. So you're doing brief therapy. In the first few sessions, brief therapy, number one, let me tell y'all, that means you ain't got that long with that client. That means you probably set up for like a 6 or 8 week term with the client and they out of there. So keep that in mind. You're doing brief therapy. First few sessions have already passed by. Client not really trying to answer your questions. He avoid the issues while he's there. He's changing the subject and all this kind of stuff, right? You notice, okay, it's a few sessions. I only got 6 with you and we didn't already been through 3 and we ain't getting nowhere. What's the most ethical thing for you to do? Is it to respect the client's pace or for you to confront the client with the resistance?
Confront the client with the resistance.
Okay. And everybody's okay. Everybody's okay with this one. Or anybody want to go with B? All right.
Oh,
All right. So tell me, why would confronting the client with their resistance be? I'm gonna put about because I don't like the word with. Tell me why is this the right answer? Why do y'all feel like this is the answer?
I would say it's the right answer because you said it's only a brief session and you've already met with him for a few sessions. So you know why you're there. So you would want to, ask the client, we're here because, you have a drug abuse problem. Are you going to continue to avoid coming or talking about the issue, or are you just going to keep coming for the next 3 sessions and we haven't done anything?
Absolutely. Brief therapy means there's a limited time to work on these issues. So guess what? We got to get it. And if I see you not trying to get it, then I need to confront you as a social worker. So for the person who said they didn't like the word confront, this is why I teach, do not steer away from words. I know people say, oh, we never do this. We always do this. I don't go with the absolutes at all, because every situation is different. There will be times where the social worker has to confront the client. There will be times where you have to refer before assessing and all that kind of stuff. So I tell people, do not get hung up on the words, read the whole answer choice and make meaning of that as a whole, not just because you see one word that you don't like or that stands out like, oh, I don't feel comfortable confronting the client. It just depends on what the situation is. And in this situation, because I broke it down to let you guys know, brief therapy, you only got a few, you've already been through the first few sessions. So that's how I want y'all to start thinking or talking y'all way through it. Just like I just kind of talk y'all through that when y'all were between B and C, but it was easy for y'all to pick C after I kind of talked y'all through it. So I'm talking y'all through it because I want y'all to gain this concept of saying, okay, look, it's brief therapy, which means I ain't got that long with them. We done already did a few and we ain't making no progress. So let me, what do I need to do? So that's how I want you to start like focusing your mind on just kind of talking yourself through these situations like they're live, like you're the social worker sitting there live in this situation, okay? Any questions about that? All right, and so in the code of ethics, there are some instances where you will have to confront a client, just so we won't run away from that word in the future. Anybody want to take question 4? Oh wait, was I writing on the right one? Okay, I was. I didn't know if I put the right rationale. Anybody want to take question 4?
I'll do it. It says a social worker leads a group of pregnant adolescents with the purpose of developing the members' coping skills and decision-making capabilities. The group has met weekly for 3 months with minimal gain. To facilitate group growth and the independence, the social worker should first. So are you highlighting a sentence or?
Well, tell me, basically tell me what's going on in this situation.
So we're leading a group for adolescent pregnant,
Leading the group, okay,
and the purpose of it is to, I guess, the coping skills and decision making.
okay. So, and I'll tell you this, whenever you have a group and it tells you what the goal or the purpose is, that's normally where your focus is. You want to make sure you definitely want to consider this. It's not necessarily looking for a presenting problem, but that's normally where your focus is going to be. So, the group has met weekly for 3 months and it has minimal gains, okay? So this is where the problem comes in at. So I want you to see the purpose of the group is to develop the members' coping skills and decision-making capabilities. You have to know the purpose, okay, in order to, I guess, come to the right answer. So the group meets weekly, trying to develop this purpose, okay, but they have made minimal gains. The question is asking you to facilitate growth in independence. That's where you're focusing at, okay? That's where I want you to focus. You want to facilitate growth in independence. So what is the first or most important thing you need to do about this group who has made minimal gains to reach this goal right here of developing them to developing their coping skills and decision-making capabilities? What is the most important thing you need to do to facilitate growth and independence? Is it A, give the group members control over as many decisions as possible? Pause or scratch?
I would say scratch.
Okay. Everybody else okay with, anybody want to pause before I scratch? Okay, that's we're gonna take that as we're not sure, so we're gonna scratch. We could come back to it. What about B? It's the most important thing. Is it to encourage the members to make decisions within agency guidelines?
I would say scratch again. It's because if you're doing a growth in their independence, then why would you want to follow the guidelines of your agency?
Okay.
And that's just my thinking. I don't know.
Okay. If nobody don't say pause, I'm scratching it. So what about C? The most important thing we need to do for this group is to educate them regarding assertiveness techniques.
I'm gonna say pause.
I'll say scratch.
All right, so we got a pause and a scratch. What about D? Assign clear roles to each of the group members.
I would say pause.
Okay. So we got pause on C and D. So now we go back and talk our way through the scenario. Anybody want to talk through it?
So the social worker is leading the group for the adolescents. And so she's looking to, they've been meeting for weekly for 3 months and they've had minimum gain. So she wants to have them to grow for their own independence. And I guess the question is saying, what can she do for them to like have their own independence, to show their own independence? That's how I'm reading it.
That's good. That's good. So which one of these answer choices directly will help them to facilitate growth and independence, which will also address the presenting problem of them developing coping skills and better decision-making capabilities? Because, in order to be independent, to grow in independence, you have to be able to make your own decisions and you have to, have coping skills. You have to know how to cope with stuff.
Now like A, I don't know why give them control over as many decisions as possible. Because that's,
I heard A and All right, so are we any one of these other ones? I mean, I like it because it's a difference. You can tell the difference when you talk through it. So when we just read through it, we eliminated A, but when you actually start talking yourself through it, then you're like, okay, wait. So now A might be a possible. So are we looking to scratch C? Let's talk about C. Educating the members regarding assertiveness techniques. Is that related to anything here? Assertiveness technique?
No, and I think that's more of an intervention.
Okay. So we scratching it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now assign clear roles to each of the group members. Is that going to address the issue or propel them to their goal for the purpose of the group?
No, scratch
Because
it.
you're trying to facilitate growth and independence. So assigning them clear roles in the group, is that going to do that?
No.
No.
Okay, so if you give the group members control over as many decisions as possible, is that going to facilitate growth and independence and help them to make better decisions, improve their decision making and coping skills?
It will.
A is your answer, okay? So again, I'm gonna stress, I repeat myself a lot because I really want y'all to get it. I don't want nobody to miss anything. This is why it's important for you to get in the habit of just kind of talking yourself through it. It may seem like it's taking a while. That's because I'm doing it. But once you're reading these questions, it's kind of like you're going to be reading and talking yourself through them as you're reading. And it doesn't take long. It literally becomes second nature. But I just want y'all to be able to see the difference in doing that. Taking yourself like, okay, let me talk myself through it. Y'all went from immediately Xing out the right answer to saying, okay, no, that's the answer that makes the most sense. Okay.
And also, Miss Kim, I didn't like D because usually within the group makes a decision unless it's something where the social worker needs to intervene.
That's that. Yes. Normally everything is kind of done as a group. So assigning clear roles to each of the group members that kind of like, I'm not saying it's not something that you can't do, but it does kind of take away from especially the purpose of the group. So of it being a group. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with that. Anybody else have anything they want to add on this one? Any questions about it? All right, we're moving along. We're going to a best question. Anybody want to take this best question? Y'all scared of the best question? Okay.
I'll take it again.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
It says a social worker meets with a couple who has difficulty expressing feelings. During one session, the couple begins to argue about finances. The husband yells, the wife cries. The husband responds by saying, crying won't work. You need to spend less money. This interaction best demonstrates should I read the answers or like how we doing?
Okay, no, I want you to talk it out. Okay. So this is a best question. So the first thing, because of I'm kind of, I'm used to doing this. So when I see, I automatically first look at what's highlighted. If it's something that's highlighted or bolded or whatever, that's what I go for. I look at that first. So this is the best. So that automatically tells me that when I'm looking at the rest of the situation, I know I'm meeting the client where they are. So for my new people, that's where this sheet also comes in at. When you look at best questions, it'll tell you exactly what you need to be looking for. And I will tell you that the main thing that you need to worry about is meeting the client where they are and doing what's in the best interest of the client. Okay, especially when you see best, that this is the best question. So we know that we meet the client where they are. So tell me, where are we in the process? Beginning, middle?
The beginning.
Tell me why.
During one session.
All right, during one session.
But does it mean the beginning though? Just because it says during one session?
Nope, it does not. It does not. That could be the third session. They just saying during one session, it doesn't mean session one. It doesn't say during session one. It means during one session, means anyone. But besides that, you're already in session with the client, so you're already actively working with the client, which means you are in the middle phase. So because they say that means that it's going to be related to your answer, directly related to what your answer is going to be. All right. So definitely pay attention to the way that it's worded. Again, I didn't write this question, I just reconstructed it, but this is how the question was during one session, not during session one. So don't get confused. So we're kind of in the middle. We're looking to meet the client where they are. The presenting issue is, what is the priority issue here?
They're arguing about the finances.
Okay, the couple begins to argue about finances, and then it tells you exactly what went down right here. The husband yells, the wife cries. The husband responds by saying crying won't work. You need to spend less money. Okay, so what is the question asking you? This is important. This is the important part of the strategy for this question specifically. What is the question asking of you, of the social worker?
This best interaction demonstrate.
It's basically just asking you to identify what this interaction demonstrates.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
even go into the answers, and I'm pointing that out, y'all, because some people will, before you go into the answer, will be looking on how to help the couple. And the question not asking that. So that's why I stress, what is the question asking of you? It's not asking you to help the couple. It is just basically asking you to identify this interaction best demonstrates and so you're basically just identifying what this interaction best demonstrates. So remember that you're not looking to help them. So there's an answer on here that says help them in some type of way. It's probably not going to be your answer because that's not what the question asks, even though you might want to help. Okay. So A, this interaction best demonstrates the use of anger to control. So basically saying, the man saying that, crime won't work, you need to spend less money. Is that a demonstration of using anger to control her?
I would say no.
No.
All right, so we're going to scratch that. What about B? Is the wife crying as manipulation? She's trying to manipulate him by crying after she done spent money.
No, I would say that she's
That's
more
what I would do.
embarrassed.
That's what I would do. I would just like I didn't mean to. Is that the answer?
Correct.
Okay. Why are we scratching that one?
I don't feel like that's what she's demonstrating.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And
All
then
right.
I don't believe that answer is addressing the couple.
There we go. Okay. That one. I like that. I like that rationale. All right. So what about C, the husband's belief about gender roles?
No.
Yeah, that's totally off. So that means, just like the last person just said, the couple's poor communication skills. We are focusing, this is the couple's situation. So we want to focus on the couple. This interaction best demonstrates. So best, y'all, we meet the clients where they are. Think about it. And where they are in the situation, that just means we're mentally going or emotionally going to where they are. They arguing about finances. The husband yelling, the wife crying. He's saying he don't care about her crying. We meeting them right there in that situation. And this best demonstrates that they ain't got no communication skills.
That was a good question.
Wait, what?
I said that was a good question.
Yes. But I like the way I actually rationalized it, especially who said, that we need to be focused on the couples, because that is one of the most important things I want y'all to take, especially when you're working with groups, whether it's a group, whether it's a family, it's a couple. Remember, just like the last question with the group, we want to make sure that our primary focus and any issues that need to be addressed, we address it as a couple, we address it as the family, we address it as the group. So that's something to remember with any of these questions when you're working with multiple people. Okay. All right. So number 6, this is the most question. I actually need somebody to read this one because I have to just step away for like maybe 30 seconds, but y'all can read it and I shall be right back. Let me grab something. But I can hear y'all though. Anybody?
A family is referred to a social worker. The mother says she is constantly tired from going to work, cooking, cleaning, running the household, and caring for her first child. Her spouse is angry with her for not spending time with him and for not keeping the baby quiet. The couple most likely is.
Okay. So now this is a most question, y'all. Okay. So most, again, is kind of one and the same with best, but basically when you have most, you're just trying to do what makes the most sense for the client, what makes the most sense and is the best way to help the client. Most and best is interchangeable for the most part. All right. So is there a phase of the process with this question?
I believe we're in the beginning because a family is referred to a social worker.
Amen. Okay, I like that. All right, and what's the presenting problem or the priority issue here?
Okay. Her spouse is angry with her for not spending time with him and for not keeping the baby quiet.
Okay, so that's the most pressing issue that's happening right here. Everybody agrees. Anybody, well, let me see, anybody does not agree. All right, so the couple is most likely, the couple most likely is A, having difficulty with the new life cycle change. So what makes the most sense? Remember, most you're thinking about what makes the most sense for this situation. You got the situation up here that you've already read. She's tired, but now her spouse is angry with her for not spending time. What makes the most sense? What's most likely the reason for that? Is it A, pause or scratch?
Yeah,
Pause.
keep, yeah, pause.
All right, what about B? Could the couple be struggling with serious family of origin issues?
Search.
Okay, what about C? Demonstrating the need for in-home support services. They need some help in there. Pause or scratch?
Scratch.
Search.
Okay. And what about C? Are they putting their baby in danger because he angry and for her not, spending time and the baby, not keeping the baby?
Scratch.
All right. So I think A is pretty much a given. They're having difficulty with the new life stage. They just got a new baby. It takes some time to get adjusted to that. So yeah, that's the answer. Any questions about that one? No, that one's pretty easy. All right. All right, we're going to the famous next question. This should be a good one. A teacher asks the social worker for professional advice about a 6-year-old student who has been diagnosed with Asperger's disorder. After offering information to the teacher and discussion options with the parent, the social worker should next. This should say discuss. All right, so this is the next question. Any phase? Does it tell you anywhere we are in the process? Beginning, middle, or end of this situation?
Oh, ma'am.
Okay, so if it doesn't tell you, then it means it's not really relevant. And I'm gonna keep saying that. What's the issue here?
The kid has just been diagnosed with
Diagnosed
Asperger's.
with
Okay, right here. So exactly what am I highlighting? Tell me specifically what word.
I would say the 6-year-old diagnosed with Asperger's.
Okay, actually it's gonna be this whole little snippet right here. The teacher asks the social worker for professional advice about a 6-year-old, all of that. So now this is the next question, all right? So for my newbies, next simply means doing what comes after the last thing the social worker did. I have to stress this, y'all, because people are being taught otherwise. You have to do what comes next after the last thing the social worker did. Not always necessarily what the last thing, like what's the last sentence in the scenario. It has to be after the last thing the social worker did, if she did anything, if she or he did anything, okay? So most of the times, it probably will be the last sentence, but a lot of times it's not. So I don't want y'all to get caught up on saying, oh, this is the next question. I got to do what comes after the last thing that was in the situation, because that is not the key. You are looking for what comes next after the last thing the social worker did. And in this situation, the last thing she did was she offered after offering information to the teacher and discussing options with the parents. So that tells me she offered information to the teacher. She discussed options with the parent. So after she has done that, what is the next thing that this social worker should do about this situation, about this 6-year-old who has been diagnosed with Asperger's disorder? What's the next thing she should do? Should she enroll the child in an after-school social club?
Scratch.
Tell me why we're scratching it.
I think, I don't know, I just don't like that answer. I was thinking we should refer the child to a social skills because of the Asperger's disorder. We haven't
Okay.
gotten that far yet.
All right, so after we have offered information to the teacher who has asked our advice, and we discussed some options with the parents, the next thing, should we encourage the parents to invite a classmate over to play with the child?
No, that's breach of confidentiality.
Scratch.
Yeah, that's a little. All right, and I heard her say C, we might want to refer the child to a social skills group. Anybody feel like that's a scratch?
I said that's a keep.
Okay. Now, what about D? Should we ask for a teacher's aide to assist with the child in class?
Scratch.
I think it's just taking the power away from the parents. And that's what A is doing, is taking the power away. If you just enrolling the kid into the social, you didn't even like get their permission.
Okay. So, well, she did discuss options with the parent.
But the parents didn't say, oh, this is what I want to do.
Is that we're not about to assume because it don't say that in there. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So C is the best answer. Refer the child to a social skills group. You didn't talk, you're trying to you're trying to get professional advice. So you didn't already talk to the teacher and discuss options with the parent. So the development and reinforcement of social skills should be next, because that's a big deal with, especially with children with Asperger's as well as autism. So if this was a question, either way, that's a big deal for those things. So this is a human development question, a human behavior question. So this is one of those things that I guess you would kind of need to know as well. If you're not familiar with I guess the behaviors of children that are diagnosed with Asperger's or autism or anything like that. All right. Number 8. Somebody gonna have to hear me out. This is the first question.
After a lifetime in one house, a senior moves into an assisted living facility. Before the move, the resident was going, but now is reclusive and refuses to attend meals or other activities. The social work consultant should suggest the staff first.
All right. This is a different question here. So tell me, is there a phase of the process we're in?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So then tell me, what's the presenting problem? What's the issue here?
Before the move, the resident was going, but now is reclusive and refuses to attend meals or other activities.
All right. Okay. So what is the question asking of the social work consultant? So you're the social work consultant. What are they asking of you? This is the first question. So we know they asked you to do the most important thing.
You asked if we were in what phase. I would say that we were in the beginning phase because this client just moved to your facility. So, I mean, I would say you're in the beginning phase of the client.
Possibly. I think if it doesn't specifically say, then you don't really have to worry about it. But I do, and exactly, I mean, I do understand you moving to an assisted facility and all of that. But where we are, so that means it's really probably not going to be relevant to the answer. So I don't even try to figure it out when they don't specify for me. So, so you're the social work consultant and you are trying to help the staff out with this client who, he done lived his whole life in this one house and now he just moved into this new environment. Okay. Before he moved, he was it must mean outgoing. Yeah, I'm telling you, I be trying. But now is reclusive and refuses to attend meals and other activities. So what's the best suggestion? The most important thing that we can do for this client in the situation, how should we advise the staff? Should we tell them to allow the resident time for grieving?
False.
Pause.
Should we insist that the resident eat with the others? We gonna insist?
Scratch.
Okay, like, yeah, you gotta go eat with them. Should we find another facility to transfer the resident to?
Scratch.
Should we request a psychiatric eval for the resident?
No mental health is mentioned in the STEM.
Listen at you. Yes, indeed. You can tell you've been coming to groups. Yes, a lot of people like to say, oh, we need to do evaluation because he's not acting right, or, he giving some symptoms or whatever. But nothing in here said he had any type of, psychiatric issues, or just mental health issues. Or the somebody was saying something. So it's basically saying that, he was outgoing, but now it's like he don't want to eat or he don't want to do none of that stuff. And this is just one of those classic situations where I tell you that you focus on the presenting problem, which is what's going on with the client right now, but you also have to consider the situation. And so that's where this note comes from up here. Consider the entire situation, but you focus on what's happening right now. So in this question, the situation is important. We need to know that, he just moved into this assisted living facility after living in the same house for all his life. That's a big life change. So we have to give him some time to grieve that move, okay? He not crazy. We don't think he's depressed or anything like that. So that's just a major adjustment. Any questions about that one so far? Not good. All right. Number 9. When sharing diagnostic information with a client, the social worker should give greatest consideration to. Now, y'all, this is a recall question, so y'all can y'all look at these answers and just tell me. Y'all don't even have to go through them one by one. I just kind of want to hear which one of y'all think it is, because this is a recall question. That's something you got to know. Any guess? You think about it. Talk yourself through it. You sharing diagnosis, you sharing the client's diagnosis with the client. What should you be most considerate of when you're sharing diagnostic information?
To make sure that it's not harmful to the client.
Is that an answer choice?
Oh.
You done left the text.
Oh, God.
You done left the text.
I would say D.
All right. So is it A? Is it should we give the most consideration to identifying the diagnostic category in which the client falls? Should we be like, look, you fall into this category?
Scratch.
All right. Should we give the greatest consideration to describing behaviors that clarify the diagnostic information? My mouse is acting up.
I would say keep.
Okay. Should we give the greatest consideration to protecting the client from any painful information about his diagnosis?
I would say scratch.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to do that. That's not even ethical. Or should we give the greatest consideration to assessment? I probably made a typo. Assessing the potential liability of the social worker.
I would say scratch it, because while we're assessing our potential legal liability, it's all about the client.
I mean, you giving him his diagnosis, so where is the legal liability in that?
Yeah. So I would say scratch it.
All right. So describing the behaviors that clarify the diagnostic information is the most considerate thing you can do. Like basically just saying, okay, hey, this is your diagnosis. And these are the behaviors that you are exhibiting that, is why we're giving you this diagnosis, just kind of clarifying it, helping them to understand instead of just saying, look, you depressed, or, and you're not really clarifying it. And so that is, that's giving the most consideration, at the same time, helping the client to understand their diagnosis as well. Okay. Oh, and see, the rationale says, and the behaviors that led to it in order to fully participate in treatment. So basically, they're gonna understand, how their behaviors led up to what they got going on, and they might be more apt to participate in fixing it now that they actually know what behaviors is causing it. Okay. Any questions about that? That's just another need to know question. All right, number 10. Well, this is an accept question. I don't know. I used to mess these kind of questions up. Anybody want to take this one? All
I'll
right.
take it.
Oh, go ahead. You can take as many as you want.
It says a 27-year-old male with a history of hospitalization for bipolar disorder and alcohol abuse recently stopped taking his medication, became manic, and resumed drinking. At his landlord's request, the police takes him to the hospital and arrange an involuntary admission to the acute psychiatric unit. The client has all of the following rights except the rights to refuse treatment, refuse to give permission to the hospital to contact his family.
Wait, we don't even know what's going on yet.
Oh, okay.
What happened? What's going on up there? So, well, yeah, I'm lost.
So by his landlord's request, he's been taken to the hospital involuntary. He's been involuntary admitted to the psychiatric unit.
Okay. Okay, so it said at his landlord's request, the police has taken him to the hospital. All right. So what is the question asking of you?
So he has all the rights. What rights do he have?
Okay. So when answering the accept questions, what do y'all think about when y'all are, when they ask you, the client has all of the following rights except the right to, like, where does your mind go when you're automatically going to look for the questions? I mean, when you're looking at the answer choice, not the questions, I'm sorry.
I usually flip it.
That's exactly what I want to hear, because that has been the biggest thing that helped me. I know everybody kind of processes different, but I struggled with this. And then I think it was in Dawn Apgar somewhere where it said to flip it. If you just flip it and say, okay, the client which of all of these are rights of the client?
Mm-hmm.
All the rights of the clients, and then the one that you leave out, that's the exception, right? So I just wanted to share that just in case somebody else was kind of struggling like me, because I be having processing issues sometimes. But yeah, so you can go ahead and pick out all the right ones, and then whatever you have left is the exception. But some people can just, if you could just look through the answer choices and pick out the exception, you're pretty good. So anyway, which one is not a right of the client? Does the client have the right to refuse treatment?
He has the right to.
Say it again, I couldn't hear you.
He does. He has the right to refuse the treatment.
Okay, so we scratching that one?
To me.
Okay. What about B?
He can do that too.
Okay. Anybody object to that?
No.
Okay, what about C?
I can scratch that one.
All right. And what about D?
That one you can do because he was involuntarily. Like he was taken, he can't get out. That part.
And that's what y'all need to know about the involuntary admissions. Okay. A client, this is the difference between voluntary and involuntary. Just know that and you'll be fine. Some people get that confused of when a client can leave or when they can't leave. Okay. So among the rights listed, the only right not available to this involuntary patient is the right to leave the hospital when he chooses, because again, it's an involuntary admission. Just needs to make sure y'all are clear on that. All right, let's go back to this good old ethical question. A social worker is leading a group for students with conduct problems. One of the students is the informal group leader. He tends to intimidate others and tries to control the discussion by glorifying his past crimes. What should the social worker do? Right out the gate, I'm thinking ethical. Okay, what is the most ethical thing that I need to do? Now I need to determine what is the problem though. What is the issue? I need one of y'all to tell me. I don't like telling y'all the problem because y'all identifying the problem is the most important part to answer these questions. So I need one of y'all to tell me what is the priority issue. What's the issue here? What's the problem?
He's intimidating others.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically, we're gonna say this whole little sentence right here, right?
Mhm.
All right, so he tends to intimidate others and tries to control the discussion by glorifying his past crimes. So what's the most ethical thing you need to do? Remember, we are in a group.
Mhm.
We are in a group. So what should you do? Should you let the group work out the issues of power and control?
Maybe.
Okay, pause. What about B? Should you model a trusting relationship by listening to the leader?
No.
Rich.
What about C? Should you confront, oh, there go that word. Should you confront the student leader about his past and current behavior?
You shouldn't. So no.
Okay. Everybody okay with square? If anybody want to pause, just let me know. What about D? Ask the group how they feel about the student leader's comments.
I would say keep. Pause.
Okay. So now y'all let me know what's going on between A and D. Because I think both of them are really good answers to have left. You remember when you have two good answers left, you go back and you compare them to what the issue is in the situation. Okay, and the issue is that you have somebody who tends to intimidate others and try to control discussions by glorifying his past crimes. So the most ethical thing we try to do about that is
I would go with D. The only reason that
Yeah.
I would go with D is because he's already intimidating them. So if they're not already speaking up, then how am I going to let the group work out the issues of power and control when he's already intimidating them and taking over the discussion?
you
So I
are
need
on
to.
it. Absolutely. That is absolutely right. And not only that, I didn't want to bring it in as much because I wanted you guys to pick it out. But also, you are leading a group of students with conduct problems. Okay. So as the leader, as the facilitator of the group, that's what you do. You kind of probe them to get involved. Ask them, okay, so how do y'all feel about his comments? You want to start them, open up the discussion, lead them into discussion about what the issue is. So that's your group, that's your role as the group leader or group facilitator. You're leading discussions about these things, even when it's problems in a group. Just like you said, letting the group work out the issues of power and control, like they ain't gonna work it out, they intimidated. So that's not gonna happen. So the most ethical thing to do is to just ask them how they feel in the midst of the group and let them all express themselves right there as a group. Any questions about that? All right. Number 12, next question. A social worker is employed by an agency that provides therapy for low-income families. The agency is funded to provide weekly social work services for a maximum of 5 months. After providing 4 months of weekly therapy services, the social worker realizes that the client will no longer be eligible to receive services soon. The social worker has located appropriate alternative resources for the client. What should the social worker do next? All right, y'all. Where are we in this process? Beginning, middle, or end in this helping process?
I would say at the ending part because
Okay.
they have to end the session. I mean, not the session, but they can't receive services anymore.
We're coming up on termination or, in the relationship. Okay. So here's another example, y'all, of knowing where we are in the process and how that is going to be relative to your answer. So what is the presenting problem here? Where's our priority issue? I'm just
Yeah,
on the things that we already pointed out.
yeah, that they will no longer, the issue is that they will no longer receive services.
Okay. So in this situation, we have somebody who basically only could have a max of 5 months. We are already at 4 months, so that means that we only got a few more weeks and we're going to be terminating services soon. Okay. Right. So this is the next question. And like I told y'all before, we want to do what comes next after the last thing the social worker did. So in this situation, the last thing the social worker did was located appropriate alternative resources for the client. What do you do after that? Now remember, the phase that you're in, you are coming up on the termination phase of this process. You have already located appropriate alternative resources for the client for, I guess, after his services end, because that's one of the things that we have to do, make sure that the client has the necessary services to meet their needs after we terminate services or after they're done with us. So what should you do next after you have located appropriate alternative resource? Should you give the client the new agency's telephone number and hours of service? Is that the next thing that you are going to do?
I would say pause.
Okay. What about B? Discuss the need for termination and the client's preferences about referrals.
Pause.
Pause.
Okay. Empower the client to advocate for himself with this new agency.
Scratch.
Okay. Tell me why we're scratching.
Because the client is doing all the work. You're just going to kick him out and he's going to have to do his own work.
I mean, we didn't already locate the resources. I'm just saying. I'm just being funny. What about D? Offer to provide services to the client after hours until therapy is completed.
Scratch.
Why are we scratching that?
We don't work for free.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Okay. So now we got 2 left, right? 2 of the best possible choices. We go back to the situation. We got services about to end. We realize that this client no longer will be eligible for our services. So we locate alternative resources. So after we locate these resources, should we give the client the new agency's telephone number? Or should we discuss the need for termination and the client's preferences about referrals?
I would say B.
B? Anybody want to say A? Let me go up here and see what if there's anything here. Okay. All right. Anybody? So nobody's saying A on this one.
Here's the call.
All right. So here we are. We have this client, and you've already located him services. He can't stay with us at our agency, but we've located alternative resources. Anytime you're coming up on termination with a client, you always want to first of all discuss if they're ready for termination, if they need to be terminated, and what is that client's purposes about referrals. Like, you located some alternative resources, but you have to see what is that client's purposes, or you can discuss with him those resources that you have, but just giving him the new agency phone number and all that kind of stuff, it's not really taking the client's feelings into consideration. And that's what you want to do whenever you are getting ready to terminate the client. You always want to see if they're ready. If they might need some more time, you may have to go back and advocate for some more time or whatever. But you won't know that if you don't discuss the need for that, okay? Any questions about that and the rationale? Giving the restrictions, the social worker needs to begin working with the client on termination and referrals. So yes, you have to discuss the client's preferences about where he want to go. You can't just be like, oh, I found this place, here you go, call them. They open up at 8. Makes sense. Is anybody not understanding the next concept? Like when you have a next question? Does anybody have any questions about understanding what you're looking for with the next questions? Are y'all all pretty okay with it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty good with it.
Okay, good, 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 good. All right, anybody want to take this first question? And when I say take it, I want you to go ahead and just run. Whoever take this question, I want to hear you process this whole question. Oh yeah, this gonna help y'all because I want to hear what y'all are thinking. I want to kind of hear how y'all process it because y'all know how I process it, but I want to be able to hear how y'all process it just in case there's something that we need to tweak. Because I need y'all to get this. Make sure
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Go ahead.
It says a social worker sees a client who is concerned about excessive internet use. The client worries about not being able to control online activities and feel it is harming interpersonal relationships outside of the internet. What should the social worker determine first? So it doesn't say what phase we're in or anything. So
Good.
the client is having issues with the internet. The client's worried about not being able to control that sentence. So the online activities and feel harming interpersonal. So what should we do first? Or what should the social worker determine first? It says the degree in which the client's life is affected, the number of hours each
Just
day.
do one at a time. I want you to do pause and scratch. Let me know
Okay.
pause and scratch.
I would say pause. The degree in
A.
which A
Okay.
is a pause. The number of hours spent online. Ooh, that's a pause. How many online relationships the client has? I would say that's a scratch. What kind of websites the client is visiting? That's a scratch. So
Okay.
let me see, the worries about not being able to control online activities and feel it is harming interpersonal relationships outside of the internet. Like, yeah, it has to be A. So like, how is it affecting my life? So that's the thing I think I would like go with. Like the number of hours, like, yeah, we spend a lot of hours on the internet. So I would need to know
We're looking
how,
for the most important. Which one of these is the most important thing we need to determine?
yeah, how is it affecting my life?
Anybody has anything different or any reservations to A? Anybody want to think it should be B?
No,
We're gonna go with A. A is the answer. The social worker would need a complete picture, especially if how is this affecting his life. That's always the most important thing. How is it affecting daily functioning? That's usually the most important thing that we need to figure out, especially when a client comes to you and say that they have an issue. The number of hours each day spent online is really not that important if it's not really impacting their daily life. So we need to know how is it affecting your life? Okay. All right. So 14 is the most questions. A social worker meets with parents of a rebellious adolescent. They say that they are very offended when he talks back. In family therapy, the most appropriate goal is to. Okay, so I just kind of talk y'all through this with the last one. So I need somebody to kind of repeat my talk back so I can know that y'all got what I just said with the last group question. What are we looking for? Like what's important? What are we highlighting in this situation?
okay, we have the social worker, parents of a rebellious adolescent. My presenting problem would be, they say that they are very offended he talks back. And so, we in family therapy, so we're going to choose an answer that addresses the entire family. With most questions, we're going to meet the clients. So the clients would be the family where they are. A, teach the family how to discuss problems. I will pause that one. So most appropriate goal. B, change the parent's style of discipline. We're gonna scratch D because it does not address the family. C, suggest appropriate responses for the child. I'm gonna scratch C. Does not address the family. Recommend that the parents ignore back talk. It's a distractor. We're gonna scratch D. And the only answer we're left with is A.
How confident are you with A? Anybody got any other answer besides A?
I agree with her.
Okay, so the main thing I want to point out, y'all, especially with these groups, I said it before, but I really want y'all to see how they really work, is that when you are working with a family, respond to the family. So I'm glad that I did hear you point out when you said the response to the child, you said we're working with a family. So you don't want to just call out the child and make it about the child when you're working with a family. So that's why they specified in family therapy. So that's why I said they specify where you are in a situation, it is relevant to the answer. So changing the parent style, that's not working with the kid. The kid talking back. So you changing the parent style of discipline, how is that going to address the issue of the child talking back? So you teach the family how to discuss their problems. That is going to be the most appropriate goal. Any questions about the way you're looking at, group? It's a constant pattern is what I would like to call it. Well, probably not a pattern. I don't like to use patterns, but it really is a constant thing with when you're working with couples or groups, that you make sure that you are at minimum selecting an answer that is addressing the people you're working with and you're not isolating anybody out. Make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Anybody want to take this next question? The next questions are usually a little bit more challenging.
A teacher meets, go ahead. Go ahead.
A teacher meets with a school social worker regarding an 8-year-old student who has repeatedly come to school with the same injuries, which are blamed on the siblings or on outdoor sports. The student is increasingly withdrawn, depressed, and angry, and is reluctant to get on the school bus after school. What should the social worker do next? So we have a teacher meets with an 8-year-old student. He has all these injuries, and so my presenting problem is that the student is increasingly withdrawn, depressed, angry, and he doesn't want to get on the bus. So it says, what should the social worker do next? I don't say what the social worker did in the beginning.
Okay, so this is okay.
With them.
That's why this is why I prefer y'all to interact, because I want to hear what you're gonna do with this. Because I've already kind of heard something you said in the beginning that I want to clear up, but I want to see if you're gonna catch it. Good. Work with me through it. I'll ask you this though. What phase are we?
I would say we're in the beginning, because she just meets with him. She meets with this.
There you go, right there. She's not meeting with the 8-year-old
regarding an 8-year-old.
Yes. So I want you to just pay attention to those little words, because sometimes they can whole dynamic of the question. So I heard you say she's meeting with the 8-year-old, and it doesn't specifically say he's there. He could be, but it don't say that, so I don't like to assume. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is an 8-year-old student. Now you've already identified what the priority issue is, but we also, like I said, want to kind of consider the situation as well. He has repeatedly come to school with the same injuries, which are blamed on students or on outdoor sports. My mouse is really acting up today. So now let me point this out to y'all about this, because in case somebody was thinking that this could be the presenting problem, the fact that this child repeatedly comes to school with the same injuries. Okay, this is a prime example of why I started saying, okay, I'm gonna use priority issue interchangeably, because this as a presenting problem is what the presenting what the main issue is, but this is something that's already happened. This is, he repeatedly come to school with the same injuries. That is not something that we need to be kind of dealing with like right now. So and then when it says which are blamed on a sibling or outdoor sport, so that means this is something that is kind of like already happened, so we want to focus on what is happening more recently or more in the present. Okay, so when it's right here, it says blame with the ED, and I tell people every time, whenever you see something with ED in it, don't even look at it as a presenting problem, because it's not present, it's past, it's something that happened already. Versus in this sentence, it tells you the student is, that's present, and is, that's present. So that's just a little snippet of me just kind of giving you, I guess, a little key into if you want to make sure that you picked out the right presenting problem, make sure you don't have no past tense, because you want to deal with what's going on in the here and now. Okay, I'm sorry I took over your question, but I had to say that. So now you said that you didn't see anything that the social worker has already done to do next. That's where I want to pick up at. So you don't see anything that the social worker has already done.
No, she just meets with the teacher.
Okay, and so that's not nothing. That's something, and I'm actually glad that you said it, because normally when we have these questions, people overlook that as if the social worker didn't do anything. But if the teacher meets with the social worker, then that's what she did. That's all she did. That's the last thing she did. So all we know right now is that you met with this social worker. I mean, the teacher met with you regarding this situation. All right. So what should you do next after meeting with this teacher and getting all this other information? But we don't have to say all that. So you're focusing on what should you do next after you meet with the teacher about this situation. And of course, you see what the situation is. So would it be, hey, take me through the answer choice.
So I wouldn't refer for the child for a medical evaluation.
Why not?
Because he's just withdrawn and depressed. He's angry. So something must be happening. So I'm looking for something to have happened. So nothing has happened.
So you say we're scratching this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm not going to explain the teacher the needs to report the abuse, because I mean, that's not the presenting problem. And then what I would do, because he's 8, I would contact the parents to inquire about the unusual behavior, and then interview other school personnel involved with the child. Like, I'm already talking to the teacher. Why do I need to put his business all out in the street? So.
Okay. So anybody else got what are y'all thoughts about this? So y'all thinking that we need to contact the parents to inquire about the child's unusual behavior?
I'm sorry, but I disagree.
Don't be sorry. That's what we here for. We learning.
I could be wrong, but I just see it differently.
Okay, and that's why I love groups so much. Give me your perspective.
So I would choose B. Explain to the teacher the need to follow suspected abuse. I would say scratch C, because I don't know. Same
I have the
injuries.
same idea too. I think it's B.
Tell me why. Y'all got to defend B. Y'all coming hard on this B.
Because he repeatedly come to
Be
the
able to
school
know
with
why
the
you
same
picking an answer.
injuries.
Yeah, and
Repeatedly come with the same injuries. It happened multiple times.
and what if
Okay.
it's the parents who's actually doing it? I don't think we would call the parents who's actually causing the abuse.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. So y'all, let's look at it then. Let's break it down what we know. because this is how it happens on the exam. So now all you do is you take this, we got two answers that could both make sense. So let's compare them both back to what the actual problem is that we need to address, okay? What's going on in the situation, what the problem is we need to address. So we do have to consider the situation. The situation is we have an 8-year-old student who has repeatedly come to school with the same injuries, and he blames them on a sibling or on an outdoor sport, okay? Now, the issue is the student is increasingly withdrawn. He's depressed, he's angry, and he is reluctant to get on the bus after school, go home, right? After you didn't already met with this teacher who is expressing his concern to you and telling you about, you know, these injuries that repeatedly keep happening, and the fact that the student, you know, has all these behaviors, the next thing you would do is it to explain to the teacher the need to report the suspected abuse, because it does sound like she is suspecting abuse. Or is the next thing we're going to do contact the parents to inquire about the unusual behavior? So just talk that out to yourself and think about what that looks like or what that sounds like. You have a kid that keeps coming to school with the same injuries. He is withdrawn, depressed, and angry. He don't want to get on the bus to even go home. So you're going to contact the parents and you're going to say, hey, look, you know, Ray is over here. He don't, you know, he's been acting strange and he don't really want to go home. Can you tell me what's going on with him? Like, which one do you think is more necessary?
B.
B, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep, B is definitely the answer. So I just did you change your answer to B? Or do you see why it's B?
Yeah, I didn't change it, but yeah, I see why.
Okay, so that's why I want to make sure that, now granted, C was not a bad choice. It wasn't a bad choice because a lot of people get hung up on because he's 8 and they're like, okay, we got to contact the parents or whatever, but not when it comes to abuse. And like, I don't know who said it, but whoever said that, you know, we want to call the parents who is possibly, you know, causing the abuse and, you know, kind of stir that up, that could probably make matters worse. So anytime that there's suspected abuse, you have to tell her, look, you're a mandated reporter. You have to report this. If you know, you're saying that this is the word right here. Repeatedly, he repeatedly comes to school with the same injuries, okay? So it's just not making sense, because if you playing outdoor sports, you ain't gonna get the same injury every single time. So, and then you notice these behaviors. So definitely, that's a reason to suspect abuse. And so anytime you suspect, you gotta let them know, you gotta report it, sis. Okay. Any questions about that? What are y'all thoughts about that one? I'm glad y'all had one that y'all kind of disagreed on, and I'm glad you spoke up about it because that's good for perspective. What are y'all thoughts about that one?
It was a really good question. The only other thing that I would point out is that whenever I'm doing my questions and practicing, where it says withdrawn, depressed, and angry, and is reluctant, I normally highlight those as like a safety red flags. But it's a good question.
Yes, and I mean, I don't think you would be you're not off for doing that, because that is, you know, it is a safety thing. It really is, which even more so is it kind of confirms your suspicion. Okay, so that is a good note, for a mental note for us to take, on everybody in the group to take, that they do highlight, you know, is this child safe? What's going on? Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all another next question. Because people struggle, I noticed that in groups, people do struggle with the next questions more than any of the other questions. It used to be best, but it just seems like now it didn't switch to next. So it's not too hard. I just want y'all to get the concept of, you know, making sure y'all good on answering these next questions, okay? Anybody want to take this one?
A social worker sees a new client referred because of heavy alcohol use. During the initial assessment, the client questions the social worker's credential and competence. What should the social worker do next?
So what's going on
Okay, so I'm the social worker. A new client, so I am in the beginning phase,
Okay.
and I'm meeting with this client because of heavy alcohol use. Um,
You know what the problem is?
um,
Because of heavy alcohol use.
okay, doing this. I'm gonna go with because of heavy alcohol use.
Okay.
Doing that.
All right. So what is the question asking of you?
What should the social worker do next?
All
Okay.
right. So that means after the last thing the social workers already did, if anything,
Mm,
this is a perfect example of the social worker not doing anything.
right.
So this is the one, which is why I kind of threw this one in here, because I wanted to give y'all an example of the next question when the social worker really hasn't done anything. Okay. Besides you're seeing this new client that was referred because of heavy alcohol use. But I want you to focus on, okay, what's the last thing that happened in this situation? Okay. What's
Mhm.
that happened in this situation? Because you're doing the initial assessment. Now, granted, you can actually, that is something the social worker did, the initial assessment. So you actually, yeah, so it's gonna be the same where I was going anyway, but yes, during the initial assessment, because you're doing that. So yes, but it didn't really say you finished it. So I don't want to confuse y'all. No, I'm not gonna confuse y'all with that. So you want to do, what is the last thing that happened in this situation now? Okay, so this client is questioning your credentials and your competence. So we got a problem. Even if the problem, we got a problem, because you're not about to come up in here and be questioning my credentials, sir, ma'am. All right. So after you got this client doing this, is that what we're gonna focus on?
Mm,
This is a good one.
mhm.
Anybody can chime in. Let me know what y'all thinking, because this is a good one.
I would say yes, because it's asking, the client is asking the social worker for a response.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Anybody else? All right, so we are in the beginning phases. And for the new people, we're in the beginning phases of this process. So that just simply means that we are engaging and assessing this client. So that means we are either building rapport and establishing trust and or gathering information. So that's why the phase of the process is very important, okay? So keeping that in mind, y'all. Wait, where am I? I think I'm on the wrong screen scrolling. Can y'all see me scrolling? Nope.
Mhm.
I was on the wrong scrolling. I was trying to show the new people that you're in the beginning phase of the process. So that means right here, engagement or assessing. That's what we're talking about. Whenever you identify, okay, it's an initial assessment, that means I'm in the beginning. So that means I am building rapport and establishing trust and or gathering information, because this is an initial assessment, okay? So with that keeping that in mind, you know that your answer has to be during that. Your answer has to be something that you do in the beginning phase of the helping process. So during the initial assessment, this man, he's like, hold up, what's your credentials and your competence? Like, what you even know about this? You help me? What are you going to do next? Are you going to confront the client about his evasive responses?
No.
He got a right to ask, right? Discuss the physical consequences of alcohol abuse.
Right.
No.
We're not even in that phase yet. We are engaging and or assessing. So this is how you know this could never be the answer because we're not even there yet. We're not about to discuss no alcohol, this physical we're not there yet. We're not in the middle phase yet. We're still in the beginning. So ask the client how he feels seeking help.
Pause is fine.
Pause.
Pause.
Obtain more detailed information by indirect questions.
Great.
Great. All right. So let me point this out. Okay. I want to point this out because we have an issue of why he was referred because of heavy alcohol use. And I left this, I want to leave this here till the end. However, that's why he was referred. And I just kind of told y'all that got anything that got an ED on the end of it is usually not in the present. That's why I kind of changed the presenting issue because like from, you guys looking at it as just the presenting problem, why they were referred, because that's what people were using to pick their answers from. So if you were focusing on the fact that this client has heavy alcohol abuse, and you probably still would ask him how he feels about seeking help, but it doesn't really tell you, like, that's the next thing. So it doesn't really make sense in that way. But when you're focusing on the last thing that the social worker did or the last thing that happened in the situation during the initial assessment, which is kind of technically the last thing that the social worker did, but it didn't say she completed it. The client questions the social worker about credentials and competence. So the very next thing you want to do is, like somebody said, respond. You can respond to him. You don't want to confront him. He has the right to do that. Discussing physical consequences of alcohol abuse, that would be if you were focusing on this one. So you see why it's important that you focus on the right thing. Yes, he was referred because of this, but it's telling you right now during the initial assessment, right here, right now, he's asking you about your credentials. So we can't focus on why he came here if right here, right now, the problem is he questioning my competence. That's a big problem. Okay, so we want to, while we're in the initial or the beginning phases, ask him how he feels. And this is just another way of saying assess. Ask him how he feels about seeking help, because that could be why he's questioning, he's already there for alcohol use. Ask him, that could be a reason why he wants to know what your credentials and your competence are. So your competence is. So just ask him about that. Does that make sense with the presenting problem situation?
It does.
Yeah, because, and I want you to look, I'm gonna drill this because I want y'all to pay attention to these EDs, because there are some situations to where if now, what changed the game, to be honest, for this question is it's specified during the initial assessment. So that's why I always ask, where are we in the process? Because that means that that's gonna be where your answer is. So yes, there are some times where if they don't say, anything like, if it doesn't give you another problem, whatever, and you just have a referral, the reason they refer to go off of, then yes, that's going to be your presenting problem. But in this case, it's not. They were referred for this, but in this initial assessment, this other problem pop up. So you got to deal with the problem that's at hand. Okay. So y'all look for them EDs. I guess that's the whole reason for that spiel. Any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
All right, let me get you. We're going to let's do another first question. I'm trying to make sure I'm not putting them on here with the answers, because I'll be doing that sometimes. Give y'all the answers before y'all see the questions. All right. A social somebody else was about to read it? Oh, I was going to say, because y'all can go ahead. A social worker in a mental health hospital sees a 76-year-old involuntary client who is being held due to the risk of self-harm. The client has advanced cirrhosis of the liver and a history of alcohol abuse. The client is depressed about being in the hospital and asked to be referred to an outpatient program. What should the social worker do first? Is there a phase of the process? What is it if there is?
I don't think there's a phase.
Okay, if it's not specified, that means you don't have to focus on it. All right, so what's the priority issue here? What's the the presenting problem or the priority issue?
He's depressed about being in the hospital.
We're gonna stop right here or wanna do the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Okay. So what is the question asking of you? Because this client is depressed and, about being in the hospital, what's the question asking of you?
What should we do first?
Okay, so that just simply means, what is the most important thing that you need to do about this client who is depressed about being in the hospital and asked to be referred to an outpatient program? Would the most important thing for you to do be to remind the client that the hospitalization is not voluntary?
I would say keep.
Okay. B, would it be the most important thing be to assist the client in efforts to be discharged to the community?
Scratch.
Why are we scratching?
Because he's involuntary. He's an involuntary client.
Okay. Some other things. All right, what about C? Go ahead. Okay, I think I'm getting an echo from somebody. I think that's what it is. I keep thinking somebody about to say something. All right, so what about C? Tell the client that continued alcohol use will lead to death. Is that the most important thing to do about this issue right here in red?
Scratch it.
And what about D? Do we need to refer this client for a medication evaluation?
He's already in the hospital, so no. Scratch it.
And I don't even see what is relevant anyway. Let me see. Yeah, no, he's being held due to risk of self-harm. So referring him for medication evaluation is pointless. So how y'all feeling about A being the answer?
Yes.
Agree.
First of all, the problem. If we paying attention to the problem, which is why it's very important. The problem is he's depressed about being in this hospital. So, sir, you don't have to be here. This is voluntary. Okay. This is not voluntary. So I say you don't have to be here. You have to be here because this is not voluntary. But he also asked to be referred to an outpatient program. So that is also an opportunity where you can explain to him that is something that we can talk about, as we're getting you out of here. Because he's depressed, you don't want to just come off as strong, but at the same time, you do want to address that the main issue at hand and the fact that he is depressed about being in the hospital. He don't want to be there. He want to be outpatient, so he want to get out of there. So the most important thing we need to do is, is especially meeting where he is, but we also have to remind him that, it's not voluntary. Okay. Any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
All right. So I never really seen this rationale written like this, but this is actually something good. We don't have the authority to discharge clients from, the involuntary hospitalization. I've never heard nobody say that. I guess we knew that, but we don't have the authority to do that. I've never really just seen it said or written as a rationale. So just remember, we don't have that type of authority. Anytime there's some type of involuntary thing, you don't be the one that deal with it. I mean that, tell them they can get out of there or whatever. Okay. So let me give you another one. Let's do a should. I don't think we did a should in a while. Anybody want to take this one? Did I do that? Yeah, I did the last one. Anybody want to take this one?
I'll do it.
Okay.
It says a client who is gay assumes that he is assigned social worker is heterosexual. The client, what is that? Adamantly insist on services from a homosexual social worker. What should the social worker do?
And so that just means he's strongly insisting that, we want a homosexual social worker.
Yeah. So I would say that would be my presenting problem.
Yes. What is the question asking of you?
What should the social worker do? So it's ethical.
Yes. So we want to know what's the most ethical thing we need to do about this client strongly insisting on having a homosexual social worker. Take me through that.
It says explore the client's reasons for the request. I would say pause.
Okay.
Refer the client to an openly gay social worker. I was like, no. Like I need to
Tell me
find
what.
out.
Tell me why not.
I need to find out
Asking
why.
for. Okay.
Why first.
Okay.
And then explain to the client that the social worker orientation is irrelevant. No, because that's like, no, that's like
Okay.
not listening to him.
Okay.
Disclose the social worker's own sexual orientation. No,
What? Yeah.
no. So I would go with A. I would explore.
Okay. A is definitely the most ethical thing you can do. Again, you have just been assigned this client. A client who is gay assumes that the assigned, so he assumes that you are heterosexual. But let's just say that you're not. Please don't. It's not your place, or it's not even ethical. Since this is the ethical question, it's not ethical for you to disclose your sexual orientation. Like, oh no, but I am a homosexual. You don't. That's not ethical for you to do. So exploring the client's reasons for this request, definitely would be the most ethical thing to do. Okay. And let's see the rationale. The social worker cannot develop an appropriate course of action until there's an understanding of why the request was made. Okay, fair enough. Any questions about that one? All right, I think we got time for another one. Anybody want to take this one? We nearing the end. Come on, y'all. Everybody has taken one or not? We only got a few more minutes. Let's go. Let's bring it all in. Nobody? Anybody? Nobody? Somebody?
I'll bring it in if they want to.
Go ahead. Look, I do not blame you. Go on right ahead.
It says, after a long course of treatment with the client, the social worker begins the process of termination. The client's initial reaction is one of surprise. The client states a lack of readiness and appears to feel rejected by the social worker. What should be included in the ending phase of the treatment? So my presenting problem would be the client lacks readiness and appears to feel rejected by the social worker.
And where are we in this process?
We're at the termination phase.
Okay, all right.
So it says, what should be included in the ending phase of treatment? It says, focus on the goals accomplished. Ooh, pause.
Okay.
Refer to another social worker. I wouldn't do that. Contracting for additional services, no, because we're already at the end. Reviewing the client's strengths and weaknesses. Ooh, I will pause.
Okay, so that's good. Just go back and compare.
It says the client states lack of readiness and appears to feel rejected by the social worker. I would have to say D, review the client's strengths and weaknesses. Oh, but I like.
I got any objections to that, or feeling another type of way?
I would scratch that. I would go with A.
Okay, so we're changing it to A. So tell me, wait, I just did something. Okay, I did them. Okay, so now talk to me about D and A though. Let me know why are you changing or why are you conflicted? Because you sound conflicted.
I like the part where it says talk to the clients about their strengths, but why would I want to bring up their weaknesses if I'm already terminating? If she's feeling rejected, then I'm making her feel even rejected if I'm talking about her weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to focus on the goals that she's accomplished to motivate her. Like, hey, this is what we're terminating.
There we go. Because the client's already telling you, that she's really not really ready, and she feels rejected. So definitely we don't want to review her strengths and a weakness. Let's empower her, use a strengths perspective, and focus on the goals that I think I messed up, that she has already accomplished. Okay. All right, we got time to do one more. Let me go ahead. Let me change this one for y'all. Anybody got any questions about that one? I like how you how you caught it quick, because you went with D and then, you kind of caught it and changed it. What do you think kind of attributed to that, to you just kind of like saying, oh, wait, no, this doesn't make sense. This isn't the answer.
You said what was different about it?
No, I said, like, what about it? Like, you picked D and then you immediately was like, oh no, I'm gonna go with A. So what was it that changed it for you that quick?
Oh, that weakness part. I was like, wait.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this last one. Anybody want to take this last one before I go? Or you can take it again, it's up to you.
Okay. It says the social worker sees the couple after the birth of their first child. They were very stressed by the demands of parenthood. What should the social worker do first? So our presenting problem is they're very stressed about the demands of parenthood. They're a couple. And it's what should we do first? So we're in the beginning phase. It says, ask the couple what family resources are available. Ooh, pause. Refer the couple to a pediatrician. No.
Okay.
Determine what is causing the stress. Well, we already know what's causing it. No. Refer them to a support group for new parents. Ooh, I would say no, because we're in the first phase. Why would I start referring them out? Oh, oh no. Oh, goodness gracious.
What the answer choices are, to what the problem is. So the problem is, you
Like,
had their first baby and they stressed by the demands of parenthood. What's the most important thing that you need to do?
I would say A. I would ask them like, what resources y'all have available.
Anybody else?
I say C.
Tell me why you saying C.
Okay, so I wouldn't do A because it seems like to me that would be referring. B, I wouldn't do refer the couples to a pediatrician. I wouldn't do that one. And C, I would determine what is causing the stress. So maybe to me would determine, I read this in the Don Abgar book, can be equal with assess what is causing the stress.
Okay. So
I don't know if that's right.
What are your thoughts? The first answer, my A answer. What are your thoughts about the rationale that she's giving about C? Are we in agreement? So like, or you have a comment? What are we doing?
I like what she said, but it's determine what's causing the stress. It says that they just gave birth to their first child. So I mean, yeah, I can understand like the baby might be up crying and they don't have time, and yeah. Yeah.
What was the rationale for A again?
Who said,
I said
for A? Yeah, what was your rationale for A?
I said that they might need like support, like, family support, like, somebody to babysit for them.
I like that answer. I like that rationale and answer.
But I like yours too. I would change mine.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, so y'all kind of just split down the middle. So we're looking for the most important thing, y'all. So when you go back and you look at, okay, so they just had a baby, and the issue is, man, they're very stressed by the demands of parenthood, and that could be like, in so many different facets. So what's the most important thing that we need to do? Ask the couple what family resources are available. So my question to y'all is, how would that address, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I just want y'all to think a little bit further. How would that address the presenting issue? How asking them what family resources are available, how would that address them being stressed by the demands of parenthood? And the same thing for C, determining what's causing the stress, how will that address them being stressed by the demands of parenthood? Asking them what family resources are available. How does that address and help them with their situation of being stressed by the demands of parenthood?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so what about C? How is determining what's causing the stress going to help them with the demands of parenthood?
Because I need to figure out like what's causing the stress. I know they just gave birth to a baby, but like I said, maybe the baby's keeping them up. Maybe they don't have like quality time, so they're stressed because they're
So one of the most important things I heard you say was maybe, and maybe is an assumption, and we don't really assume, but it's really kind of highlighting here in this situation because you're like maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. So that tells me you don't know what's stressing them out. So in order for you to help them, then you got to get to the root of the issue. So you have to know, okay, can you please tell me what specifically is she keeping you up at night? Y'all not getting sleep? Is it that you guys don't have anybody to watch her while she works? Is it that you don't have enough money to buy diapers? There can be so many different demands, but the fact that you don't know that, the most important thing for you to do is to determine what exactly is it? What's causing the stress? Because we know with parenthood, it could be anything. So for trying to offer help or see what resources are available, we got to see the problem is. Just like when we answer these questions, before we try to go into these solutions, we got to know the problem is. So when we're working with these clients, she coming there stressed out saying, man, parenthood is hard. That might, to me, parenthood may be, I don't have money to pay people to watch my kids, but for someone else, the demands of parenthood be like, man, I just don't have the energy to keep up with this baby, or she don't sleep. I might, I don't get to get sleep, or, I can't work or anything. So the demands can be very different. So we got to find out what are their specific demands that are causing the stress. And so then we can start building from there, because if it's childcare, if it's a, babysitting issue, then we can say, okay, is there anybody else that could kind of help, or y'all can do shifts, or somebody that can come in, for an hour every day and give you a break, or if it's financial, well, let's see if we got some resources to help y'all, help y'all get milk and diapers, or, community resources, anything like that. But we got to know first. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's why we always want to make sure we are focused on the most important thing. The most important thing is always going to be, when we get there first, prioritize the most important thing. And to be honest, this is the only one that really kind of directly addresses that, because they talking about their stress. So let's talk about the stress. That's how we address the issue. Y'all coming here, y'all telling me y'all stressed out, so let's talk about the stress. It's their first child, so they don't really know. They probably don't know what they doing, what they got going on. So we need to get to the root of that. Okay. Any questions about that? I see we got some stuff in the chat. I'm pretty sure it's I don't know who in the chat.
So I just wanted to